Welcome to Clutch Crew Sports. I'm your lead host, Zach, and on this episode, we're here to talk all about Super Bowl 54, every little X's and O's thing that you could think about for this game. And now let me introduce you to the rest of the crew.
You know me, I'm Connor, the co-host with the most, and you can lock that.
What's up, y'all? Eric here, another co-host. I'm the NFL and NBA guy, but if you know a topic upsets me enough, you know you're going to get a rant.
All right, guys. So, as promised, here we are with our Super Bowl predictions episode, Super Bowl 54. I've got a feeling this is going to be one of my favorite episodes that we've done in our history of Clutch Crew Sports because this is what everything's led up to. You know, we talked in the playoffs how all those division episodes led up to the playoffs and all the weekly predictions and weekly reactions led to the playoffs. Well, now all that stuff, plus all the playoff stuff, has led to this moment. So this is going to be quite realization for the season of football. But I want to ask you guys, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, what are your Super Bowl plans for Super Bowl Sunday? What are you guys going to be preparing food-wise? Where do you plan watching the game? With who? Just everything, what your Super Bowl routine is going to be about. So, Eric, I'll start with you. What's your plans for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, man. It's just going to be me and the lady. Susan and I are going to be just chilling, hanging out in our apartment, watching it together. We're not going to go to like a party or anything, but I have to work like earlier in the day. So by the time by the time I get off work and like get food, it won't be too much longer till the game starts. So I'm not going to be seeing any of the pregame. But as for food and stuff, though, I'm still debating on that. We haven't fully decided what we're going to do yet. I wish I could give you more exciting information going into it, but maybe I'll
we have to know.
What'd you say? Oh yeah, Taco Bell brought the nacho fries back. I might get some of those.
Ooh, I haven't tried those yet, so I got to go get them.
Yeah, I will say, guys, let me know your opinion on this. If I should make Susan sleep on the couch tonight, because she knew while I was at work that the nacho fries had come back, and she could have texted me and told me while I was at work so I could go get some, but she didn't.
Well,
is that sleeping on the couch worthy?
I haven't tried them yet, so I can't give you an opinion on that.
I don't think so. I haven't tried them, but just my knowledge of Taco Bell.
Okay. Guys, y'all not trying the nacho fries is a more serious offense than Connor not seeing Space Jam. Like
what? No.
Which I still haven't seen, by the way.
Connor, that's 2 strikes, bro. Like,
well, hey, you know what?
Look, y'all
one's a rant.
No, what's gonna happen is
look, see,
on
I told
Saturday,
you guys in the intro. I told you guys in the intro, if a topic upsets me enough, I'm going to rant about it. Here's my rant for the episode: that Connor and Zach have not tried nacho fries yet. Sorry, I'm getting really sidetracked, but
hey, man, on Saturday I'm going to go to Taco Bell because it's over by my mom's house. So when I'm going to go see Kayla at her job, there's a Taco Bell right on the way, and I will stop and get some because every time I've gone there since you gave us this thing to go and try them, it's always been either the rolled chicken tacos or something else, not the nacho fries.
No.
So
the rolled chicken tacos are nacho fries.
I still think you should watch Space Jam before you do that. I mean, that's a bigger thing in life. But I mean, they're just fries with cheese sauce. I mean,
no, but the fries have a seasoning. The fries have a seasoning.
Okay, seasoned
really
fries with cheese sauce.
They don't even need the cheese sauce. They're that good. I'm telling you, man.
Okay,
Zach, you're severely underestimating this. But I'll turn the floor over to Connor for his Super Bowl fans. I'll let this go for now.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm probably just gonna be sitting at home with my dad watching the Super Bowl on the big projector. And I don't know what the food plans are gonna be. I'm guessing my dad is gonna. He's got a smoker, so I don't know if he's gonna do pulled pork or if he's gonna do. We usually like to do chicken wings or ribs, maybe. I don't know what he's going to do, but definitely going to be some smoked meat and some lots of beer involved there. And I know this is hopefully I'll get the outcome that I want, because it seems like every time my dad and I are away from like his house with the projector watching it, the result we want doesn't end up happening. Because, and I'm just using this like, for Super Bowl 50, we didn't really care who won Super Bowl 50, but like, for Super Bowl 51, we wanted the Falcons to win, and he was at home and I was still up here in Boone, and the Patriots ended up winning. So then Super Bowl 52 happens, and I went home for that one, and we wanted the Eagles to win, and they won. And then last year, I watched it with him too last year, but we went down to South Carolina, and the Rams lost. So hopefully we'll get the outcome we want, since we're not going anywhere, because it's bad juju to go away from the house.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
Maybe
That's very interesting.
Maybe that will combat the Jersey bad juju.
oh yeah, the Jersey juju, yeah. I know. I gave you an argument in favor of your pick when I told you that.
I'm not gonna stoop to the jersey color, but that's always in the back of all of our minds. But as far as my plans for the Super Bowl, I'm not gonna, make it a big extravagant thing or anything like that. But probably Kyle and I are gonna get together and watch the game. I guess we got to do it now at my apartment, because later on you're gonna see a prop bet related to the place that I watch my games at. But as far as the food, I don't know what I'm gonna do for that. But my Twitter handle is @GuacFoLife, and in my bio picture here on the intro, there's a picture of guacamole here. I did that for a reason, so
there better be guacamole.
I can lock that guacamole. So yes, that's a lock. I'll show the proof on Twitter if you guys really want to see, but that's definitely going to be one of the foods I get. I don't know what else it'll be, but yeah, we're just gonna watch the game, have a good time, and he's going for the Chiefs as well, so it's not like we're gonna be battling each other for who we want to win. But
so, well, here's a question for you, Zach, though, before you move on: is it going to be the mild guac or the spicy guac?
I'm a fan of spicy foods. I'll say that straight out, but when it comes to guac, I would rather have mild guac. And it's not that I'm gonna I don't hate spicy guac, but it's just I just like mild guac better. I just like that flavor. When you put a spicy thing in guac, it doesn't make it the guac that I think of guac. So that's why I probably go mild, but it's not to say that I don't like spicy stuff. But I know you don't like guac, period. So
no, I'm not an avocado person. So
and I don't think Eric is either.
No, I'm not. Okay. I'm not a guacamole person. I don't like avocado either.
Eric, sure you work at a Mexican restaurant and you don't like guacamole?
I know, it's pretty bad. But luckily I like other stuff there. And unfortunately, like in my biopic, there's Chick-fil-A in it, but Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday, so I have to get something else. So but we'll figure it out. I'll let the Twitter world know. I will post updates.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna now show you guys who everybody related to Clutch Crew Sports thinks is going to win this game. So some of these people have been featured on our podcast. Some of the people are ourselves, and then others are friends of mine and friends of Eric's. So I'll start with the 49ers and just introduce all these people here. So we have up in the top corner, Natasha from the Collier and Claire Sports Show. She wasn't on our episode, but we joined their podcast, and she was a part of that. Connor and I were there with that one. Next to her on the right is Eric's longtime friend, Alan. So we asked him, yep.
I was about to give him shout outs there.
Yeah, of course. So we asked him who he thought would win. He said San Francisco. Down here in the bottom left is Aaron Swarm. You guys probably only recognize him by this cartoon face, so that's why I put it up here.
Shout out to you, Aaron.
He's got the AirPods in and everything, the headband. Trying to be Gardner Minshew, I guess. I don't know. But
I like it.
And then there's me to the right, looking pretty edgy with my distilled water in the background. That's what it is, by the way. In case anybody's wondering, I tried to take a serious picture, and then I was holding a bottle of distilled water, and I put that in the caption. So that's what the picture looks like, all blown up. But Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
just that caption got me, man. Like looking edgy with the distilled water. I don't know. I just kind of.
Well, I remember that was the first thing I sent to the group too. When you changed your profile pic, I was like, "Man, Zach's trying to look all edgy and everything over here."
Yeah, it looks edgy when you don't have the full bottle with the text and everything. But yeah, that was the goal. It got a lot of laughs on the internet, so that was
That's
that's what's
good.
up. Yeah, and then the overwhelming majority of the Clutch Crew Sports people have picked the Chiefs to win. So we'll start up in the top left here. Stacy Collier from the Collier and Claire Sports Show. He was on our podcast about a month and a half ago. And of course, he was on when we joined them. To the right, that's Kyle that I was talking about earlier. So he's a Packers fan, going to be rooting for the Chiefs. And
Didn't
then,
take too nicely to when we called the Packers frauds.
no, he didn't. He texted me right once that a couple hours after the episode released, and he was like, "So the Packers are frauds, huh?" I was like, "I can't tell a lie, man. I can't tell a lie." And then to the right here is Mark, also known as the Big Ten defender / SEC hater. Mark, you're listening to this. You're gonna text me that you don't hate the SEC, but I know you do deep down. And then over to the right here is Nate. Obviously, he's on our show a lot, so he's picking the Chiefs. And then, of course, we got Connor here down in the middle row. He's on this episode. In case you didn't know, in case you weren't listening before. And then also we have Eric here in the middle, repping the Jags.
Looking good with that hat.
Yes. What? That's a weird kind of hat.
Hey,
there.
well,
It's interesting, but I like it.
Yeah.
I'm repping my team in that photo. It's just very
Yeah.
shrunk down, but there is a Lynn Swan jersey in there.
And then to the right of Eric is the 1RM. We were on their podcast just last week, something like a podcast. So we talked to him. It was a great time. And then one of our original Twitch supporters down here, Jackson. This is his Twitch username, JH172. That's his little Toy Story logo. He was picking the Chiefs as well. So you can see most of our related people have picked the Chiefs, and only a couple people, including myself, picked the 49ers. So it's gonna be a fun episode, guys. If you listened a couple months ago, you might have heard the debate that Kyle and myself had about Aaron Rodgers being the MVP or not in the mid-season mark. I have a feeling this is kind of what this is going to be, because we don't usually disagree a whole lot often, but the more I've been thinking about this, the more strongly I'm leaning towards San Francisco to win. I'm sure you guys are thinking the same for Kansas City. So this is a true, honest disagreement here. So may the best debater win, I guess.
This isn't going to be like those, first take and everything where we're like, "Oh, you're stupid." Like,
should I, after like 10 minutes, should I be like, "Is it my turn yet?" Should I be like,
just interrupt us, you know?
Well, actually, I am going to interrupt you right now, but it's for a good reason. So you can see right here, there's a lot going on this screen. There's a lot going on my screen that you'll see later. I think Connor and I deserve awards for coming up with this stuff. It took a lot of work to edit these pictures, crop them down, snip them, resize them, shrink them, enlarge them.
Make sure you can still see them.
Make sure you can still see them. We really maximized our space here. I think we did a pretty good job. So I want to congratulate you guys on that.
Yeah, high five, bro.
Yeah, high five.
All right, so we got the Kansas City Chiefs slide here. So I'll probably do the majority of the talking on this since I made the slide. But Eric is also picking the Chiefs, so I know it's going to be him and I. But so starting in the top left here, these basically what these slides are pretty well all the reasons why Eric and I think that the Chiefs are going to win, and the next slide is going to be why Zach thinks the 49ers are going to win. But so at first I wanted to include the Chiefs the two final scores from their two playoff games. I know one thing that Zach's going to be highlighting later is the fact that they were down like mostly 21-0 to the Texans and down 10-7 to the Titans. But you can be down early in the game as much as you want. The final score is what matters. And at the end of the day, they beat the Texans 51-31, and they beat the Titans 35-24. So, especially the Texans one, they looked like they were in trouble for a little bit. But if you look in the second, by the time the halftime rolled around, the Chiefs weren't in trouble anymore. They were up 28-24 at halftime. So, and they weren't really much in trouble against the Titans really either after the first quarter. So, I mean, definitely if the Chiefs can put together a first quarter against the 49ers, they are going to be very well set. So then underneath these scores, I included Patrick Mahomes' stats from both of the games because I know everybody's been talking about Patrick Mahomes is going to be the key to this game for the Kansas City Chiefs. You see that he threw for 321 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Texans. That's certainly nothing to sneeze at, and a 91.5 rating. Could be better, but still pretty good. But then you look down against the Titans, 294 yards and 3 touchdowns and a 97.5 rating, which is really good. So, and if you notice 0 interceptions between the two games. So, good for the Chiefs. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight Chiefs-wise and from these two games were where it says team. This is also for everybody looking on YouTube, but if you're not on YouTube, you're not going to see this. But where it says team, I included the Chiefs' rushing stats from those games because most people think that the Chiefs' offense is all Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball. Well, the Chiefs can run the ball too. They ran for 118 yards mostly between Patrick Mahomes and Damian Williams in the game against the Texans. And they ran for 112 yards, again, between Patrick Mahomes and Damian Williams for the most part against the Tennessee Titans. So, Eric, what do you think about the Chiefs' offense heading into the Super Bowl?
Oh, I mean, obviously the Chiefs have the best overall offense in the NFL, which is going to give them a big advantage in this game. I know San Francisco has a better defense in the NFL. They're one of the top defenses, but if you look at some of the defenses the Chiefs have played throughout their last few games of the season and then going into the playoffs, they played some pretty solid defenses too, and yet they still put up this, the numbers that they have. So looking at the I guess one of my arguments that I would bring to the table for the Chiefs is if you go by the different positions that each team has, look at the quarterbacks. Who are you going to give the edge to? Obviously, you're going to give the edge to Patrick Mahomes over Jimmy Garoppolo. That's probably the biggest blowout out of any of the position charts going into the game. With the running backs, while the 49ers have had a great running game, they're a 3-headed running back by committee. So I wouldn't really necessarily argue that any of them are better than Damian Williams and LaShawn McCoy. Really what I would argue with the running backs is that it's more split. I guess I'd give that matchup to be pretty even. And then the tight ends are going to be pretty even as well. This is actually one of the more exciting matchups that I'm looking forward to watching in the Super Bowl. I'm looking forward to seeing how each team tries to guard and contain the other one's tight ends, because Travis Kelce and George Kittle are 2 of the best in the NFL, probably the 2 best tight ends in the NFL. So that one, again, I'm going to give it even. But I give the wide receiver edge to the Chiefs for sure. There's nobody faster than Tyreek Hill. Sammy Watkins came on pretty strong. I like their wide receivers a lot better than anybody that the 49ers are offering to the table. So you definitely have to give the edge offensively to the Chiefs going into this game. So that's my argument for the Chiefs offensively there. So I'll let you go to the next part, Connor.
All right. So, and then continuing on to their offense, I have 2 more pictures of Andy Reid, which one thing about Andy Reid is he is a great offensive mastermind. And I know the stigma or the, thing about Andy Reid is that he can't win the big game. But the thing about Andy Reid is that even though he hasn't won the big game ever, he's been in this situation before. I mean, he's been a head coach in the NFL since 2001, I want to say.
98.
Yeah, even before 2000. So he's been around for a long, long time. So this Super Bowl stage is not going to intimidate him. He's not going to get flustered. whereas this is Kyle Shanahan's first trip to the playoffs as a head coach. So definitely the coaching experience, I think, is going to come into factor for Andy Reid. And also below Andy Reid, I have the Chiefs and their 6 Pro Bowlers. So I'm sure most people will recognize most of the people on this board. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes there in the middle, number 15, Tyreek Hill, number 10, Eric Fisher, their left tackle at number 72, Travis Kelce, number 87. And then on the far left is actually their fullback, Anthony Sherman, who I think is a little bit of an underrated piece to this offense. If you can have a good fullback, I think that's a great addition to any offense, even though it's hardly used anymore. And then that last guy there in the middle next to Mahomes, number 55, Frank Clark, he's going to be talked about a little bit later, but he's a defensive player that made the Pro Bowl for the Chiefs. And so that's the main focus, because I wanted to talk about the offense, but the main focus I wanted to put on the Chiefs was their defense, because the whole argument going into this game against the Chiefs, for the most part, is that the Chiefs had this horrible defense that's not going to be able to stop the 49ers at all. You know, defense wins championships. The 49ers will stop the Chiefs, and then the 49ers will run all over the Chiefs defense because their defense sucks and it's terrible. Well, if you look at the actual stats for the Chiefs defense, it's honestly not that bad. And in some cases, it's not. I will agree that San Francisco is the better defense, but KC is right there in a lot of categories next to San Francisco when it comes to their defense. So, first of all, I wanted to look at what the Texans. Actually, I just realized I have these 2 swapped. But
oh yeah,
I just now realized this.
That's okay.
I put a lot of work into this. But so anyway, under the Texans Chiefs game is actually the Titans running backs. But so with how Derrick Henry ran for over like 170 yards on the Patriots, and he ran for over 170 yards on the Ravens. Well, the Chiefs managed to keep him in check with 19 carries. So he carried the ball a lot. It's not like he only carried it 7 times. 19 carries and only 69 yards on the ground. After what he'd been doing against the Ravens and Patriots, who have much better, they were like the 2 top defenses in the league this year. And the Chiefs were able to keep Derrick Henry in check and not the top 2 defenses. And then if you go down to the underneath the Chiefs-Titans games, you have the Houston Texans running backs. Carlos Hyde, 13 carries for 44. They managed to hold Deshaun Watson to 37 yards rushing. He only rushed 6 times, but, Deshaun Watson can definitely do a lot more damage on you. So I wanted to highlight that their run defense is really good. And then I wanted to also highlight 3 players on their defense at the bottom here with Chris Jones. Despite how sucky he is in Superstar KO, he is a bona fide all-pro in real life. He didn't make the Pro Bowl this year, but the disruption that he causes is just unreal, especially in the run game. I mean, he was a big reason why Derrick Henry was not getting the yards that he was getting in that game. Chris Jones was getting in the backfield, disrupting Derrick Henry, and allowing the rest of the Chiefs defense to get there. Then you have Frank Clark, the Pro Bowler that I mentioned. He's their main pass rusher. I know 8 sacks on the year is not terribly good, but it's still a fairly decent number for a defensive end. And also, as I'll get to later, Frank Clark was not the only one that was racking up sacks for the Chiefs. And also in their secondary, Tyrann Mathieu, he had a couple off years before this, but the Honey Badger looks like he's back in form. He had a couple interceptions in the playoffs. So I think Tyrann Mathieu is going to be dangerous. And if he can intercept some of the quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson and Ryan Tannehill, which I know Tannehill's not terribly good, but if he can intercept Deshaun Watson, he's going to be a nightmare for Jimmy Garoppolo. So, and then going up to some of these other stats on the Chiefs defense. So the first one, where you have the Chiefs at number 7 and the 49ers at number 8, this is points per game given up by both teams. So I know the 1 point on defense where the Chiefs are lacking compared to the 49ers is yards per game. Now, when it comes to yards per game, the 49ers were 2nd in the league and the Chiefs were 18th. But at the end of the day, you can give up all the yards you want. It's the points that matter. And when it comes to points per game, the Chiefs are actually better than the San Francisco 49ers on defense. Now, only slightly, but, they are ahead 19.2 to 19.4. So even though they've given up a lot of yards, they have not given up a lot of points, and that's what counts on the scoreboard. Then when you look at the category of sacks, the 49ers were in a tie for fifth with 48 sacks on the year. The Kansas City Chiefs not far behind at all with 45 sacks on the year, tied for 11th. So even though Frank Clark only had 8 of those sacks, there's a lot more guys like Chris Jones and some other people on that defense getting to the quarterback as well. And then in the turnovers department, the 49ers had 27 turnovers and the Chiefs had 23. Once again, very close. The Chiefs actually had more interceptions than the 49ers did. The 49ers had a lot more forced fumbles. I think that's mainly attributed to their, the strength of their defense. Besides Richard Sherman, the strength of their defense is their front seven, so you're probably going to cause more fumbles. But so, well, at the end of the day, it's obviously the 49ers have the better defense, but the Chiefs are not as bad as people say they are. And the last thing I wanted to look at before I let Eric share his opinion on their defense is the chart on the right over here. This was the Chiefs' last 6 games in the regular season: 2 against the Chargers, against the Raiders, Patriots, Broncos, and Bears. And obviously the Bears don't have a great offense, so people might say, oh, only giving up 3 points to the Broncos and Bears, they weren't that good anyway. But still, in the NFL, to only give up 3 points, that's pretty impressive. They only gave up 9 points to the Raiders, which is a budding young team. Derek Carr is obviously not the best in the world, but he's a decent quarterback. Josh Jacobs was a really good running back. Only gave up 9 points to them. It only gave up 17 points and 21 points to the Chargers. A little bit worse, but still, you're going to win a lot of games if you only give up that many points, especially with the offense that the Chiefs have. And then finally, with the New England Patriots, only giving up 16 to the Patriots. Tom Brady had an off year, but if Tom Brady can get going, that Patriots offense can be dangerous. So to keep the Patriots to 16 points, I think is also incredibly impressive. So I'm going to turn over to Eric with his opinion on the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, and just this will be my final brief thing before we let Zach have his turn. Zach, thank you for not being like Skip Bayless and interrupting and asking when it's your turn.
Oh no, I'm just taking mental notes. That's what I'm doing.
So I like that Connor brought up the scores from their last 6 regular season games, and so I added all of that up and calculated it between their last 6 regular season games and their 2 playoff games, and they are averaging only giving up 15.5 points a game in that time frame, which to basically 2 touchdowns, which is pretty impressive. And really, in that Texans game, they had 2 like special teams gaffes that gave the Texans 2 touchdowns. So really, even though it looks bad that like they gave up 31 points in that game against the Texans, but really their defense only gave up 17 points. So factoring that in, their combined score average over the last 8 games is only giving up 13.7. So basically right at 2 touchdowns. But everybody's argument is that the Chiefs defense sucks, that the Chiefs defense is garbage, and that's why the Chiefs are going to lose this game. But I have to disagree with that, because looking at the numbers too, in addition to the points per game, in those same 8 games, they're giving up an average of 93.6 rushing yards per game, which is a pretty solid number. They're giving up an average of 248 passing yards a game, which again is pretty decent. That's may not blow you out of the water, but it's not trash like people say it is. And also, more importantly than the number of yards in the passing game, their defense in those same 8 games has given up 9 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions. That's really good. And if the Chiefs, I think the biggest key to this game is going to be whichever team gets off to the quicker start. Obviously that's an advantage. Now we've seen that not matter for the Chiefs in the last 2 games with them getting behind but then coming back. But I do worry for them a little more in this game if San Francisco gets a bigger lead, because I feel like they're a more complete team than the Titans and the Texans were. But if the Chiefs can get off to a good start and force the 49ers to put the game into Jimmy G's hands, then the Chiefs they're gonna win this game. But I guess before I turn it over to Zach, I will just say I am really excited for this game. This is the first Super Bowl for me in a while where I'm definitely rooting for the Chiefs to win, especially since they beat the Texans and Titans, who are my rivals of the Jags, so I'm obviously rooting for them, but I don't necessarily have a, for sure true rooting loyalty. It's not like the Patriots are in it and I for sure, I hate them and want them to lose, or it's not like it's not like the Jags are in it. So obviously I have a rooting interest there. Like, I want to be able to just sit down and watch this game and enjoy it from start to finish, not be stressed out about anything, like just enjoy it. And I'm ready to watch these two teams go to war. But I think with the evidence provided, I think we've got enough proof here to show that the Chiefs are going to win. So, Zach, we'll let you have your rebuttal here.
Well, before Zach goes too, I wanted to mention one last thing about, you say that if they put the game has to go into Jimmy Garoppolo's hands, they're going to win. Well, that was the last thing I included on this slide was Jimmy Garoppolo's stats from the 2 playoff games that they played against the Vikings and against the Packers. So I also included his wide receivers down there: Emmanuel Sanders, Deebo Samuel, Kendrick Bourne, Dante Pettis, just to kind of prove our point about like the fact that Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and the guys that the Chiefs have are superior to them. And also looking at Jimmy G's stats, I mean, in the first game, 11 for 19 for 131 yards, a touchdown and an interception, and a 45.5 rating. That's not good at all for an NFL quarterback in today's game when it's supposed to be a pass-heavy game. That's not good. Now, I can sympathize a little bit more with Jimmy Garoppolo's second game where he was 6 for 8 for 77 yards. Obviously, they didn't need to throw the ball that much when Raheem Mostert was off running for 220 yards. But I'm mainly, especially looking at that first game when that wasn't the case, that how is Jimmy G going to perform if they put the ball in his hands? I mean, he's only thrown 8 passes in the last 3 weeks. Is that good for a quarterback starting in the Super Bowl? I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah, now I will turn it over to Zach for his bit on the 49ers.
Okay, sure. So let me just take a quick check out where we're at. 32 minutes. Okay. Yeah. So you guys bring up a lot of good points, but there are still a lot of things you guys said that I disagreed with. And I think it started with Eric's comment about the running backs for the Chiefs and the 49ers, because I don't view that as a tie at all. I think that's a heavy advantage for the 49ers. Just look at the team stats here in the playoffs. So yards rushing, San Francisco's averaging 144 to Kansas City's 98, and most of that 98 has been Patrick Mahomes. Damian Williams, who you talked about, he's not better than any of the 3 running backs San Francisco has, in my opinion. He's got, I believe, in the playoffs around 25 carries for 94 yards, or give or take a couple of yards or carries, but it's a bad average. So that's the one thing I wanted to start by talking about. The main thing I disagree with there, but now I'm not going to be too dramatic or anything here, but when I worked at Steak and Shake, one of the most popular things that people like to order was the Frisco sandwich. And you know what the Frisco sandwich rhymes with? San Francisco. That's not a reason they're going to win the game. I just wanted to say that.
I was like, wait, where are you going with this?
Yeah, this isn't making any sense at all.
No, it's not. I just wanted to say it because I thought about it in my head. I was like, Frisco sauce, San Francisco. They rhyme. It's just something funny that I had to say.
Oh, my goodness.
But no, I think there is, I think there's a lot of slander when it comes to these 49ers wide receivers because, yes, they play in the offense that they play in, this West Coast offense. And the thing that I think is so underrated about these 49ers receivers, and it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. That's why you look at all these stats, and if you've got any 49, I don't think you have any 49ers receiving stats here, but these receiving stats are so misleading because when reporters talk to the 49ers receivers after the games, they're not moaning and upset about, oh, we didn't get as many targets, they only threw the ball 8 times. Like, they are genuinely more happy when they are blocking for the running game than catching passes. I think that's a huge thing that is so underrated when it comes to these 49ers receivers. And these guys, they take pride in blocking, which is crucial to the zone running scheme that the 49ers tend to run, which is totally different than the Titans run scheme with Derrick Henry up the middle or Derrick Henry toss out. It's it's a total different scheme. So when you look at the stats that the Titans put up, that low rushing yardage total, that's not a good measure of how this game is going to go because yes, it's just rushing the ball, but it's rushing the ball in two very different ways. Its zone running is much different than running up the middle or toss pitching it out. And George Kittle is probably the best blocking tight end in football right now. You have a good offensive line. They're not the greatest offensive line in the world, but they're serviceable. And they take pride in run blocking. These receivers take pride in run blocking. The tight ends do. And they don't ask Jimmy G to do a whole lot. But I will say that's the thing. They don't ask Jimmy G to do a lot, but he's capable of having big games. So down here, I have a bunch of late season games, Jimmy G stats wise, going from week 17 in the Seahawks down. But the Saints game was one that I really wanted to focus on because that was a road game in New Orleans where he put up 4 touchdowns, went toe-to-toe with Drew Brees, one of the greatest throwers of the football in the NFL history, threw for almost 350 yards and 4 touchdowns with, I believe, a 74 QBR. So he's obviously capable of having a big game. You give the edge to Mahomes from consistency-wise, but Jimmy G can have a great game. You look at, there really wasn't any bad games on this list. The Falcons game, I'd say, was his worst game, or the Ravens game, but the Ravens
have the Rams game. Was that 2 interceptions?
The Rams was 2 interceptions. Yeah, but I mean, he still threw the ball for a decent amount of yards. Cardinals, I mean, I know their defense isn't great, but and then that first time against the Packers too. So it's a mix, but I think for the most part, he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves because the team doesn't rely on him a whole lot. And when you look at the history of things, so that's why I put this stuff up over here on the right. So this Super Bowl really reminds me, if I want to compare it to the Super Bowl in 1998 between the Packers and the Broncos. And there's a lot of reasons why, starting with Mike Shanahan being a coach of the Broncos. He's with the 49ers. He's not the head coach, but don't get it wrong, he's got a huge part to the 49ers. His role there is a film guy. He confides with Kyle, his son. He has a big impact on this team. Obviously, Kyle being his son was raised in this system, so they're very much connected and similar. So you've got the coaching similarity. I think another thing too, Patrick Mahomes, what's the guy that people compare him most often to is Brett Favre, who is in the Super Bowl with the Packers losing. And then you can compare Jimmy G and Elway here because look at Elway's stats in this game. 12 completions for 12 out of 22 completions, 123 yards and interception. You look at those numbers and you think, oh, there's no way Denver can win this, but it's about the running game, which Shanahan has brought to new Shanahan, and it's about you can stop a great quarterback like Brett Favre. So it's not all about passing, when it comes down to this. You got to run the ball because that's a huge part of time of possession. I believe the 49ers have a great 3-headed backfield with Breida, Mostert, and Coleman. Now, Coleman's been on the injury report, but he did practice. He was limited in practice, which I think is a good sign for him to play in this game. But that's another thing, too. When you're game planning against the Titans, you're only worrying about Derrick Henry, and that's it. When you game plan against the 49ers rushing, you got to game plan against Coleman, Mostert, Breida. And he can run, he can fly. So it's a totally different thing when you compare the Chiefs defense, how they've been doing, to the San Francisco rushing offense, because I don't think it's very similar at all. Coach Super Bowl as the head coach, so we don't know what he's going to do in this game. But Kyle Shanahan, while he wasn't a head coach in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. Obviously, they blew that Super Bowl lead, but I think that is going to do him well in this game. He's got the experience. He might be a first-time head coach in the Super Bowl, but he grew up with his dad being a coach in a lot of Super Bowls. He's been around a lot of NFL teams that have gone to Super Bowls, so he's used to this moment, I believe. And then you guys were talking a lot about the team stats. I put team stats here for the playoffs down here. So this is playoff team stats. Everybody makes, you guys were talking about how Kansas City's defense is better than people think, but I personally think San Francisco's offense is better than people think. Neck and neck when it comes to points per game, points allowed per game, total yards. I mean, a lot of these stats are pretty close. Rushing yards, yards allowed. I'm just trying to. Yeah, wherever I got these stats from don't make sense for the Kansas City points per game. But anyways, the point is that San Francisco's offense can put up points. So that's a bad. I don't know why ESPN lied to me about that. I just realized that. But yeah. So the point is though, San Francisco, they can put up rushing yards, they can put up passing yards, and now I'll talk about the San Francisco defense. So this is really where this game is going to be won for San Francisco, because when you look at the Titans and you look at the Texans, both teams did things fundamentally wrong. Okay, the Texans, I just believe, aren't talented enough to match up when it comes to their secondary and when it comes to their defensive line. And then the Titans, I blame that a lot on Vrabel for his defensive scheme that he put out in that game. I tend to blame that more on the Titans than I do good on the Chiefs, because you can't send 3 rushers at Mahomes. You're just asking for trouble when you do that. Robert Saleh is one of the hottest defensive coordinators in the National Football League. I have a hard time believing that he's going to just send 3 rushers at Mahomes and play it like that. So you look, 5 first-round draft picks on this defensive line. A lot of people know about Nick Bosa, but you've got Armstead, you've got Buckner, you've got Solomon Thomas, the 3rd pick overall, D Ford, Eric Armstead. I mean, it just goes on and on with these players on the defensive line for San Francisco. They're going to be fresh. They're going to be attacking these Kansas City guards and tackles. I think they're going to get to Mahomes. I think they're going to get to him early and often. I expect a couple of sacks in this game. And then in the secondary wise, a lot of people like to rave about Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and Travis Kelce. But these San Francisco corners are really physical. They're going to get you at the line of scrimmage. That's going to be the key. Sherman's talked about it. You got to, when you're going against Tyreek Hill, you got to slow him down early. You got to get physical with these guys. San Francisco, I believe, is the most physical team in the league. Kansas City, they're more of a finesse team. That's what I would classify Kansas City as, a finesse team. I'd say San Francisco is more physical, and I think that's going to lead to an advantage, kind of a shocking advantage. I think Kansas City isn't going to put up 30 points in this game. So, and a lot of people talk about Sherman too, but they have another great cornerback on the other side here as well. And his name is Kawan Williams. I guess that's how you pronounce it. But he was rated a top 10 player of when you take all the players on the Chiefs and 49ers, he was rated a top 10 player. So Mahomes, he's not going to have an easy day throwing the football down the field. San Francisco obviously leads the league in fewest 20-yard passes down the field, only allowing 10 all season. So you're going up again, you're putting best against best here. But I really do trust the 49ers defense. I trust their offense to ground pound, run the ball, keep Mahomes on the sideline. The defense is going to get stops. They take the ball away. Here I've included all the draft picks and everything, from their past drafts, a lot of defensive line, offensive line. So a lot of these players are making impacts on this team right now. Obviously up here, I've got rushing stats from the 2 games, and this is really monumental because it was Mostert in the Packers game. It was Coleman in the Vikings game. You never know who it's going to be. It could be Breida in this one. It could be Deebo Samuel. It could be a combination of all 3. It could be mainly 2 or not 1. It's just so hard to plan against 3 great running backs who I think all these running backs are better than any running back that Kansas City is going to put out. So that's a huge advantage for San Francisco. And then another thing too, finally, that I want to add here before we kind of go back and forth is Kansas City's defense. They give up so many offside penalties. It's not even funny. Like, a lot of people remember the one in the AFC Championship game last year by D Ford, but they did this in the Titans game like 3 or 4 times. They had 9 penalties for 61 yards. And that's not a huge amount average-wise, but it's because a lot of these are offsides. I think they had 2 or 3 of them. And you can do that against the Titans and get away with it because they're the Titans and you're at home. You can't do that against San Francisco. And unfortunately for the Chiefs, their defense just every game I watch of them, they give up these stupid offsides penalties. And to me, when you give up offsides penalties, that's loser football right there. That's not good coaching. That's Andy Reid not being disciplined enough on his players. Whereas on the flip side, Shanahan, I think, is a much more disciplined coach with his team. They only had 2 penalties for 10 yards in that last game against the Packers. And we all know how favorable the refs have been to the Packers this season. So that's pretty impressive. But it's really the offsides penalties that get me with the Chiefs. You cannot do that against the San Francisco 49ers. They got away with it. The first quarter leads they got away with because it was the Texans and Titans. I can guarantee you this. And this was really 17-7 because Tennessee scored a quick touchdown in the start of the second quarter. So I'll tell you this, if San Francisco gets up by either of these margins, if they get up 17-7 or 21-0, they're not coming back on the 49ers. They start out slow for some reason. Mahomes, these vaunted KC receivers and tight ends, they have a lot of drops in the early parts of the game. That's what I've noticed. I don't really blame it on Mahomes. I blame it more on their weapons. They seem to drop balls a lot, whereas these 49ers receivers, I don't really see them dropping balls. They don't have the big names, Dante Pettis, Debo, and Emmanuel Sanders, but they're all solid, I believe. George Kittle, too, is a huge passing threat. They're all solid. They know their roles. They can run. Debo Samuel, very fast track athlete. So I don't view that as a huge going back either way, too, just because I know Kansas City drops a lot. So I've kind of talked on and on here. I think I talked about everything, the penalties I really wanted to talk about. So we can kind of go back and forth now, and I'll switch between these slides. But what do you guys think about what I said? Because I kind of replied to some of the stuff you said.
Well, I know one thing for me about Patrick Mahomes, because you talk about that the 49ers like to be physical when it comes to the cornerbacks. I think the one major key that makes me think of a Superstar KO, but the major key for the Chiefs is that if the 49ers cannot get to Patrick Mahomes, then his receivers are going to get open because we all know Patrick Mahomes' arm strength. It doesn't matter how far down the field Tyreek Hill is. If the Chiefs' protection can hold up and the 49ers have to start getting in sprinting matches with Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill are going to win. And Patrick Mahomes can throw 60-yard bombs down the field. So I think that's going to be the key point. Like, I'm not doing this as like an argument one way or the other. This is more of just like, if the 49ers can't get to Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be a long, long, long day for that 49ers secondary. And I don't think they're going to be able to hold up, which is one of the reasons why I thought about this before the podcast started, because I feel like since this is such a big episode, I have to have one of these. But I know the 49ers, they have allowed the fewest completions over 20 yards, and they have one of the best pass defense, one of the best defenses in general in the league, and they're gonna, rush Mahomes and get to Mahomes. I am going to lock that Patrick Mahomes is going to throw for at least 300 yards in this game. And that, because I think he's going to get around. I don't think they're going to be able to get to him quick enough. I think Mahomes is too much of a dynamic playmaker. And I think if the Chiefs' protection is going to hold up and he is going to start to complete these deep downfield passes. So Patrick Mahomes, 300 passing yards. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't know about that, to be honest. It's doable. It's only 300. That's not like an absurd number or anything, but
against this
defense, that's going to be pretty hard. But still, I think even with 300 yards, I think that doesn't guarantee the Chiefs a win. Because I have so much respect for the 49ers running game. Like when you look at the 49ers run game, it's totally different than what they had to go up against with the Tennessee Titans. We saw it in the Green Bay game. They literally just could not tackle them, these running backs. So I really think Mahomes isn't going to be on the field often. I think San Francisco is going to eat up the time of possession in this game. I don't see Mahomes as having as many opportunities as he did. And another thing too, Shanahan, he's going to be smart with Jimmy G. He's not going to have designed plays where Jimmy G is going to be put in risky situations. I think anything that Jimmy G does, Shanahan's going to be like ultra safe about. Like, we cannot turn the ball over. So it's going to be it's totally different styles. They're not going to be throwing it like Mahomes, but I think it's going to be enough to create like first downs and just chew up the clock, just slowly keeping the Chiefs off the field is going to be huge for them. And the thing I love about the 49ers is they have so many guys that through the course of the game, they can bring in fresh legs to get to Mahomes. So that's another thing. The Titans and Texans, their defensive lines obviously could not handle the Chiefs' offensive line. I think these guys can, and I think these guys will be fresh late in the game to do that. So we'll see what happens there. But Eric, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately at this point, like, for people that have been listening and, you know, if you've made it through hearing both of the arguments, I mean, ultimately at this point, I mean, we could go back and forth all day with our opinions, but it's basically just, to me, the only thing really that I can think of to add to this, because, I mean, Connor and I brought up great points. You brought up great points for the 49ers. Ultimately, we have provided for you guys the blueprint for each team to win the game, pretty much. And so if what Connor and I have brought to the table, if that happens, the Chiefs are going to win. If everything that Zach brought to the table for the 49ers, if that's what happens, the 49ers are going to win. I mean,
if they eat some Frisco melts, they're going to win.
Yeah, right. I mean, so it's hard to, you know, really add much to the table to like dispute or whatever. Because I mean, obviously, obviously the 49ers have a great defensive line, so it's going to depend on if the Chiefs can give Mahomes the time he needs. But I guess one other thing that I will add that's a slight advantage for the Chiefs over compared to what the 49ers have played in their 2 playoff games is that Mahomes being able to be more mobile gives an advantage for him against that defensive line, because if you look at who the 49ers played, they played Kirk Cousins, who's a statue, and they played Aaron Rodgers, who, while he's been known to be mobile when he needs to throughout his career, he's a lot older. He's obviously not as mobile as he used to be. So, you know, it's like it kind of reminds me of like when the Jaguars made it to the AFC Championship game. It seemed, you know, our defensive line was stacked that year, and we were rotating guys in and out. We had fresh guys, but it seemed like every time when the Jaguars went against a pocket passer who was just a straight statue in the pocket, like, we just had a field day and we would destroy these teams' quarterbacks. But when we had to go against a more mobile quarterback, it seemed like that was when we had problems. And
well, how many really mobile quarterbacks did they go up against?
Mariota, Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson got hurt that season.
We went against Russell Wilson that year, and
we beat them.
We beat them.
That's what I'm saying.
We beat them, but look at all the damage. I mean, Russell Wilson did a lot of damage in that game.
Yeah, but he also threw a bunch of interceptions in that game. We
won
that game easily.
Eric's using the point of the defensive line. Like, yes, the secondary held up in that game against Russell Wilson, but it was, you know, they couldn't get the sacks that they normally get, is what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had to play Brady in the final game, who's not a mobile quarterback by any means, and they beat us. But I don't know, man. Like, it just, I do give the Chiefs a slight edge there with that, and I don't know. I mean, with the running backs,
that's what I was going to ask.
That's going to be the most interesting part, because I mean, I like your, you know, argument of their zone running scheme being different, but I feel like the Chiefs, I mean, I know they played a variety of different teams in their last 8 games, and for the most part, they gave up right around 100 yards or slightly under that. So, I mean, they didn't have many, dominating performances, but
these Chiefs didn't play any great offenses in these games. I mean, the Bears.
Well, that's not true, man.
The Broncos.
Okay, but they went against Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, a dynamic duo, twice, and they held them to roughly 90s, low hundreds. I mean, you can, yeah, but the Bears,
Josh Jacobs.
yeah, I mean, Josh Jacobs had the best
He
game
was like
against them. He had
he had
122
like
yards in
10
that game.
injuries at that point in the season. Like I don't even know if he was playing. Did he play in that game? Because I know he had so many injuries going on.
Well,
Like,
that was like week 14 or something like that. I don't remember the exact week.
yeah,
It
he had
wasn't that late.
he had a
Yeah.
lot of injuries back then. So I mean, he's just.
I don't know, man. I mean, I guess because for me, I mean, obviously they have. While
Here's the
Titans
thing.
and 49ers have different run styles, the Ravens could not stop Derrick Henry. The Patriots could not stop Derrick Henry. These were the two of the most feared defenses
The
in the
top
AFC.
two defenses in the league.
And Derrick Henry just annihilated them.
Well,
And the
I can
Chiefs
also
actually
say
contained them. I mean,
Tennessee only ran the ball 3 times in the second half to Derrick Henry. So is that good on the Chiefs, or is it just they're making the offense throw the ball a bunch in the second half so they can be ready for that, pin their ears back and
well, that's my
for
point
that.
that I was making earlier. I mean, obviously that's why I said earlier, it really is going to matter who gets off to the faster start in this game. And obviously the Chiefs didn't in their first 2 playoff games, but if they do this time, that's why I believe that they have such an advantage, because if the 49ers can't just strictly rely on that run game, and I know Jimmy G's had some decent games, but he's also had some not so decent games. And so if it's where the 49ers are forced to throw, like how the Titans were forced to throw, then the Chiefs win this game.
Well, the Titans weren't forced to throw. That was just bad coaching, in my opinion. Look at the scores here. At the end of the third quarter, it was 17-21. Does that mean that they were forced to throw? I blame that on Vrabel. I don't think Shanahan's going to do something stupid like that.
Well, still to your point about the running back, that you said they only ran the ball 3 times in the second half. Well, it's because they held Derrick Henry in such check. Like, why are you going to keep going with something that they're stopping? He did carry the ball 19
because that's who they
times
brought. That's who brought the Titans to this point. That's Derrick Henry was legit their offense.
Then why did they go away from him? I mean, like, because
that's
the Chiefs.
I'm saying idiocracy.
Because the Chiefs were stopping him. You don't keep doing something that's not working. So if it's not working like it was before with the Derrick Henry, then why would you keep doing it? That's why they went to the passing game, because, Derrick Henry wasn't putting up 170 yards. So he was held below 70 yards on 20 carries. That's a horrible average. That's a little over 3 yards a carry, which is not what you want.
Yeah, but he didn't. I mean, he was on pace to have over 100-yard game. So just think, I mean, that shaves so much clock down. When you go 3 and out, like the Titans did against the Chiefs, you can't do that. And honestly, they got bailed out a couple times because Kansas City doesn't know how to stay on their side of the field because they get offsides on so many times. But I just think San Francisco is just totally different than Tennessee when it comes to running the football. And when you look at Kansas City, they're susceptible in a lot of ways. There was a couple times too they dropped interceptions they should have had against Tannehill in the first quarter. I was like, oh man, why are the Chiefs dropping that interception so many times? Remember the penalty that they had on like 3rd and 30 or something like that, and they did a pass interference like 10 yards down the field. It's just dumb plays on Kansas City that I can't get behind. I think San Francisco's so much more disciplined and smarter as a football team, because Kansas City's defense, they make dumb mistakes like that.
Well, another thing I wanted to rebut that with the penalties is I actually, while we were doing this, I looked up the stats on the penalties on the year. Kansas City only committed 2 more penalties than San Francisco did on the year. I will say I don't know if they were between offensive and defensive, but in terms of penalties and discipline, there were only 2 more committed by the Chiefs total.
Yeah,
and that was out of 100. And also saying with that the Chiefs did that dumb pass interference on 3rd and 30. DBs start to panic when receivers get down the field like that. And with the receivers that the Chiefs have, like Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins, I know the 49ers have a good secondary, but who's to say they're not going to start to panic? Like, I'm sure Richard Sherman probably won't panic, but what about Kawan Taylor or some of the safeties? They might start panicking if Tyreek Hill all of a sudden is out in the open and they know they're not going to catch him. Then who knows? They might start committing 30 or 40-yard pass interference penalties. It's just I don't know, but
It's tough.
yeah.
Eric, you got anything else to add on that part?
No,
Because you
I
guys
mean,
were pumping the Chiefs defense up. I just don't feel
well,
good about their
for me, it's
defense.
not. I don't necessarily like want to pump the Chiefs defense up. Like, I'm not trying to say they're like, you know, an elite defense, but all over the internet, all I see is like, oh, the Chiefs defense sucks. Oh, they're so bad. Like,
They're trash.
yeah, they're garbage. And I'm like, okay, but if you look at their last 8 games, like, they're really not. Like, they have improved a lot. I mean, they were not as good in the beginning of the season, and I think that's why people, I mean, rookie Gardner Minshew came in of the Jaguars and was torching them in that first game of the season. But like, this something has changed with the Chiefs defense over the second half of the season. Like when they had that that it wasn't a blowout, it was close, but when they had that game against the Titans where they gave up so many points, that game just seemed to be like a wake up call for them. And they have changed so much since then. So if they had been playing that same way like all season, I wouldn't be sitting here trying to be like, oh yeah, the Chiefs defense is good enough to get it done. I wouldn't be saying that. But looking at their performance over the last 8 games, I just feel like they can hang with the 49ers offense in that run game. I really feel they're definitely not going to shut down San Francisco's running game, but I don't see them getting like 200 plus like they did against Green Bay. The Chiefs defense is better than Green Bay's defense.
Are they though? I mean, Green Bay had a good defense too.
I think Green Bay's defense was a little bit overrated. I think
maybe a little bit overrated, but
I think this is kind of going back to when we were talking about how Green Bay were frauds because they kept talking all year like, oh yeah, the offense isn't as good, but the defense is what's going to carry this Packers team to the promised land. And then but whenever they went up against a good team, like the Packers managed to keep the Lions to like 20 points, but that's the Detroit Lions. But I mean, if you look at both times they went against the 49ers, they got destroyed both times. And they gave up 23 points to the Seahawks, which honestly, they should have lost that game. And, you just look at they gave up 24 to the Chiefs. They gave up 24 points to the Raiders. I just don't know if they were as good as people thought they were.
Yeah,
I guess we're at a standstill here, guys. So, we're getting.
We knew going into this. We knew going into this that nothing Connor and I could say was going to get Zach to change his mind, and nothing Zach was going to say would change me or Connor's mind. But there's definitely a lot of information here that we won't get
definitely a lot.
So.
Before we go to the next part, let's do just a score prediction here. So my score prediction is going to be San Francisco 31, Kansas City 24.
Oh, so you're going with the exact same as that Denver Green Bay one there, I see.
Oh, I swear I wasn't even looking at it. No, sure. I promise you.
You compared it to that Super Bowl in so many ways. It was like, oh, that's why he picked that.
No, I just thought of that number.
What
about you, Eric?
Let's see. I'm gonna go with Kansas City winning 27-23.
I'm gonna go Kansas City winning 35-21.
Okay, there you go, guys. That's our score predictions for the game. Now we're gonna move on to talk about some more lighthearted, fun sort of stuff that we're gonna talk about. So. Super Bowl, everybody knows prop bets are a huge thing now, and they can be so random and silly. So we include some silly ones. We also have some actual game statistics and stuff like that in there as well, like over-unders for stuff. But I'll go down to that slide now. So
ever since the power went out in that one Super Bowl, these became so popular.
Yes, because whoever predicted that made a lot of money. But basically, in case you're not familiar about sports gambling and everything, how the plus minuses work. So the way it works, if it says minus a number, that means that on $100 bet, you would profit that much money. So in this instance, negative 250 means if you bet $100, you're going to get $250. And then the plus number means if you bet if you bet $170, you profit 100. So that's how the plus minus system works. So obviously, these things
So,
aren't created
so,
equal.
so the minus is the more likely, is what you're saying. Is that what it is?
No,
Like
the plus is the more likely,
okay.
because the plus means that you have to bet
I can never remember
more.
which way it is.
Yeah, the plus means you got to bet more to win a little. The minus is you bet a little to win a lot. So, so the first one being Demi Lovato's national anthem over 2 minutes or under. So I don't know. I didn't do research on this part or anything.
I don't think. I mean, the national anthem's not that long. Like unless you just
I've heard
drags
some
out a
long
lot of
national
notes.
anthems.
Oh yeah, I've heard some long ones too.
So, cutting out notes, that would be a huge thing, because I don't know if I added it, but there's like, will they, not add a word that was in it, and it was a heavy favorite that she would say it right. But, yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't want to. You're going under? Yeah, I'll go under on that one too.
I'll go over on that one. I'll be the different one. I'll go over.
All right, so number of tweets during Sunday by Trump. This is Sunday, the whole day Sunday. So they put
So not-
over.
the whole
not
day
just during the
Sunday.
game. Oh, it'll be over.
Yeah, I'm saying over.
Okay. I don't.
It'll be
I
over
follow
13
Trump
and a half.
on Twitter, but I don't pay attention to it, so I don't know how many he does. But I'll go under to be different, I guess. 13 and a half. That's a lot. I don't even tweet that much in like a week, maybe. So. Yeah, that's so halftime show surprise guess. Pitbull, yes, minus 550 odds, plus 350 no that he doesn't show up, and then DJ Khaled plus 175 yes, no, minus 260. I think DJ Khaled's a lot more likely than Pitbull. People are tired of Pitbull, like.
Didn't he show up at a previous halftime show?
I think he has. I think DJ Khaled's more current.
He is the Miami guy, though. So I mean,
they're both Miami. Like,
yeah, it's
DJ Khaled is the head coach of our favorite Superstar KO.
I'm gonna go yes for Khaled, no for Pitbull.
Yeah, you're probably right.
They're not both gonna be on there. So
yeah, I'll go yes for Khaled and no for Pitbull.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. Will Colin Kaepernick be mentioned during the broadcast? Yes, minus 110. No, minus 150.
Yes.
I'm going to say no, but I don't know. I mean, I know he used to play for the 49ers, but
I'm going to say yes. No, I'm going to say no, because they're probably going to be like, you can't talk about Cap. So I'm probably I'm going to say no.
I feel my thing is like I feel like they'll probably like instruct them to do that, but I'm sure it's going to be one of those things that's just going to slip out. Like, you know how sometimes those things happen. Like,
yeah,
when when the Chargers moved to LA, the announcers half the time were still saying like San Diego Chargers.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things that even if they're instructed, it's just going to slip out. Like Kaepernick.
Oh,
whoops.
All right,
yeah,
so
Kaepernick
this
led the 49ers to the Super Bowl. Oh.
No, they're not going to slip up that. But who will the MVP think first? Teammates plus 125, God plus 200, coach plus 800, family plus 800, owner plus 1400. Think nobody plus 400. I remember this website said this, but owner's got to be minus 1400 because, and I think it's going in minuses after some of these, but I teammates. I think that's normally how it is, but it could be God. Do you know any super religious people in this that could win MVP? I don't know.
I mean, even ones that aren't super religious will still be like, I just want to thank God. Like,
First
though,
they can. But
if they're going, I will say this: if they're gonna thank God, it will be first. So it's more so if they choose to thank Him or if they don't. Like if they don't thank God, obviously they're not going to say Him. But if they do say God, God will be first. But I would say either teammates or family, but I don't know. I
don't know. Or think nobody.
They're not just going to be like, cool, I got the trophy. Like,
Screw you guys.
Yeah. I did this all on my own.
All right. Yeah.
I'll say God as my answer.
Okay. Batman touchdown. Yes or no?
I don't know if they're. Well, I guess the only fat man I could think of would be like.
Well, like a lineman, like an offensive lineman or defensive lineman.
Oh well, so
That's
does
what
that
they mean by
does
that.
that like include Nick Bosa then?
Yeah, that would include him.
Then yes, I think so.
You
I'll
think he's
say
gonna score a
no.
touchdown?
Well, I think like either that's why I was thinking like between him and like Chris Jones or like even Frank Clark is technically considered a defensive
Yeah.
lineman. So yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
gonna say no.
I don't think so either. So this one's interesting here at the top, and I read a little bit of research about this, so I'll hear you guys first, and I'll talk about the research. Will the opening kickoff be a touchback? Yes, minus 150. No, plus 130.
I say yes.
Well, I think it's going to be a big key. Is well, okay. Obviously, who wins the toss? I will say if the Chiefs win the toss, or sorry, if the 49ers win the toss and end up kicking off first, if the Chiefs put Tyreek Hill back there, then yeah, I think 100% they're going to do that. I
You
think
mean it won't be a touchback?
it will be a touchback because they're not going to want to kick it to him.
Oh, okay.
I think for me, if the 49ers kick off, I think it will be. If the Chiefs kick off, I say no.
Yeah, the research I saw on this is that, and it's heavy, the reason why you gotta bet more money on it not being a touchback is because a lot of times there's so much like pent up energy in these players that like even if they're not supposed to run it back, they just do because like they gotta get going. Like they're just so hyped up and everything that they just don't even think about like, oh, maybe I'm too far back to run this out, but they just want to go. They just want to get out and go.
Interesting.
So that's why I would bet it's not going to be a touchback. So I'll play the favorite on that one. First play of scrimmage, run or anything else. I mean, these are just like random crap. I don't. I think I'll say anything else, but like I said, it's totally dependent on who gets the ball first. Because if you know it's Kansas City, it's probably going to be anything else. If you know it's San Francisco, it's probably going to be your run. So it's like heads or
I have
tails.
the
Like,
same
I
feeling
mean,
on that.
I think no matter who gets it, it'll be a run. Because obviously, the conventional wisdom with the 49ers, it'll be a run. But I think for the Chiefs, it'll still be a run because I think they want to try and develop that run game. Like they don't want to just try and win based off of Patrick Mahomes. They want to get Damian Williams going. So I say run for both teams.
That's a good bet then because you'd be putting up 100, get 140 profit, whereas anything else you got to bet 120 to get 100. So that's a good strategy. Longest touchdown of the game over under 44 and a half yards. I'm going to go under because I do think San Francisco secondary is good. I don't think they're going to let them run wild.
I want to say under too, although I still think the Chiefs will get some long passes, but I don't think it'll be a long one for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I don't. So I'm going to say under.
Yeah, I'm going to say under too.
Okay, total touchdowns for the game over under 6.5. I don't know. Let's just go back to what I said. I thought the score would be 31-24, so that's 3 plus 4. Yeah, 7. I mean, I'll go over, I guess.
Yeah, I'm definitely going over.
Yeah,
so
we know you're going over.
I said 35-21, so that's 8 touchdowns right there.
It's going to be like either 6 or 7, so that's really tough.
Yeah, it is.
Length of Brave and National Anthem.
Yeah, I told you these get weird. Length of the Brave in the National Anthem, the word Brave. Over unders at 5.5 seconds. What do you guys think? Is this gonna be a long?
I'm gonna go under.
Yeah, under's the more popular bet. Will a fan run on the field? Yes, plus 700. No, minus 2,000. I'm gonna say yes on this. I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, I'll say yes.
I'm saying no. Isn't the security supposed to be pretty tight on the Super Bowl? Like,
well, see, and my thing about the Super Bowl is, or at least with a lot of football games, I always wonder how many fans do run on the field because when they do, they don't show it.
Yeah,
it's not like in soccer when they show it and they're like, "Oh, there's a fan running on the field." Like in football and the NFL, they don't show it, and half the time they won't even mention it. So it could have happened, and we'll never know. Or it could have happened during a commercial break or something like that. So that's why I'm saying yes.
This is a heavy favorite for the no because you got to bet 2,000.
But I mean, again, like isn't the security supposed to be pretty good at the Super Bowl to prevent someone from getting onto the field? Like,
You would
I mean,
think.
Any joker can just any athletic jumper can just jump over and start
do they
running.
consider?
Yeah, I mean, like
Keep
the
put guardrails up over the fans, like, you know, there's no field goal net to keep them out over the whole stadium.
Do they consider just like hopping the wall running on the field, or do you have to actually get like on the playing field?
I mean, it's not far to get on the plane. I think they could get on the playing field if they're. I mean, there's heavy security, which means the takedown's going to be easier. But because there were some other sub bets to this, like if this happens, who tackles them? The security, a player, a coach, a referee. There were so many options. I couldn't fit them all, but it was like security was the most popular one. Then there was like referee, player, coach, fan. Like
I still remember. I can't remember what it was. A college football game. I can't remember what team it was, but there was a fan who ran on the field. And it was like, I think it was Ohio State. And it was like, Ohio State's, they're like strength and conditioning coach. So like, you know, this guy is like, you know, very well in shape. The strength and conditioning coach like went out and grabbed the fan and like slammed him down on the field. I was like, whoa. Like,
got him.
I want to see that. I want to see that in the Super Bowl. Okay, yeah. So we kind of hit that pretty hard there. Will Andy Reid coach in a Hawaiian shirt? Heavy favorite, no. Yes, plus 1,200. I'm going to say no for tradition. That's not a traditional thing. I know Andy Reid's not traditional, but I just feel like that's in a Hawaiian shirt coaching, and that's going to be that's going to bring too much attention and drama to him. I don't think he wants to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. Also.
Yeah, I'm also going to say no.
But, you know, if he does, you're down 7,500. So you better hope he doesn't.
Yeah, seriously, man.
All right. And then the next one's kind of the same thing. Will he eat a cheeseburger before the end of the broadcast? It's the same odds. I'm going to say no here, but
I'm also going to say no.
Plan.
I mean, how often do you find like players like sneaking cheeseburgers? Like, you've seen all this stuff where like players and coaches have sneaked like hot dogs, but like how often are they sneaking a cheeseburger?
Hey, I mean, I've seen guys like when basketball players like dive in the crowd and they take a sip out of someone's beer or something. Like, what if the Chiefs win and he gets all ecstatic and like runs up into the crowd, grabs a cheeseburger and starts eating it? You know?
Are you betting yes then?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just saying for the laugh factor.
Okay. Yeah.
Hysterical to see that.
Okay. So now we've got some announcer prop bets. Will Joe Buck or Troy Aikman say the Patriots during the broadcast? Yes, minus 300. No, plus 200. I'm going to go yes here because I feel like they're going to be like Jimmy G started his career with the Patriots. Yeah. I feel like they're definitely going to say that. So this is a good bet, I think, to take.
Or either that or they'll be like, well, last year Patrick Mahomes lost to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Game, but this year he made it to the Super Bowl. Like they're definitely.
That was going to be my argument too. The Chiefs, like, you know, when they're going to mention last year's AFC Championship game. So I'm going to say yes too.
Okay. So we've got potential with the Chiefs, and then also potential like Jimmy G started his career with the Patriots. So there's two ways that we can get this. Will they speak in Spanish at all? This is yes plus 500, no minus 1,000. I don't think so. And then if they do, it's definitely gonna be Troy, not Joe. I'll say that for sure. You can eliminate Joe from this.
They're in Miami, so even if it's just like a real quick like "Hola, welcome to the game." I mean, I don't know, man. I could see a quick word or something being thrown in there, before the halftime show, they might, you know, before J-Lo comes out, they might say something. I don't know. I'm gonna say yes.
I'm gonna say no. I'm surprised you don't have a sub bet on here for will Joe, like, yes or no, will he claim something that was a disgusting act?
I didn't see that, but yeah.
Like if J-Lo comes out for halftime and doesn't have a lot of clothes on, we're sorry, guys. This is a disgusting act.
I think he's moved on from that, but good. All right, so now we've got some more personal, funny ones here. So the over-under on Zach's TV delay, 52 seconds. I set that as 52 seconds, so I'm going to... Do you guys think it'll be over or under?
Your TV delay is not that bad, is it? I know it's bad.
I mean,
I thought it was more like maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm gonna say under. Like, it is kind of bad, but like I think it's more like, I don't know. You think it's more time than it actually is, so I would say under.
Okay.
And I will say under.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. When I was saying, because normally I don't have this issue, but since I'm going to be at my dad's, we're going to be watching on DirecTV, so I'll be like technically streaming it too. So there's going to be a delay on my TV too. So that's why I put 40 seconds, because I know like if my dad and I are watching a game, it'll be the same thing. Like I'll text him something and he'll be like, "Oh, I haven't gotten to that point yet." So
yeah.
Oh dang, sucks for you guys.
I'll go under.
On both of them, though.
I guess. Yeah. I don't know your TV setup though, but I definitely know mine, and there's been times where like you guys are back in a game after the commercial breaks, and I'm still on the part before the commercial break, so that's why I put it.
That or like there's been times when there'll be like a fourth down play or something, and Zach is like just starting the second down play, and I'm like, what? Like.
Yeah.
So
let's see. Yeah, I haven't measured it out or anything because I don't have anything to compare to, but I think it's around 52 seconds. But all right, times Eric accidentally spoils a play over under 4.
God.
because since Eric is going to be the one with the non-delayed TV,
yes. He's going to be like, "Oh my God, guys, did you see that?" When a fan runs on the crowd and they accidentally show it and Joe Buck says that's a disgusting act, he's gonna be like, "Oh my God, our podcast came true."
see, I'm gonna say over because I don't think it's gonna be as much like him saying what happens, but like I feel like there's gonna be times where he'll send a message being like just saying "Oh my God" or like "Did you see that?" and we're just like what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say over.
Yeah.
I'm going to say under, but only because I'm aware of this prop bet now.
Dang, we should have blinded him and seen how much this is going to be.
I will say if I had not been a part of this conversation and I didn't know, I probably would say over. But since I'm aware, I'm going to say under.
Well, I guess now we did our job. Now he's going to be aware of it, not spoil it. So actually, that's a good thing.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Yeah. All right, so the last slide here, Eric made.
Yeah, so before you click on it, there's one argument left for the Chiefs as to why they will win the Super Bowl that has not been mentioned in this whole entire episode yet, and it's this right here. Andy Reid is 1 win away from getting the ultimate fast food buffet at the White House, and you know he wants that. He wants those McDonald's fries, that Burger King Whopper. He wants it all, man. So
the Popeyes chicken sandwich.
Yeah, the Popeyes chicken sandwich. Some Baconators,
Coca-Cola,
the nacho fries.
Yeah, the nacho fries from Taco Bell.
Fries. Like, look at that guy. He is ready, and he will do whatever it takes at all costs to get that buffet. Let's go.
Guys, thanks for tuning into this episode. It was a lot of fun to record this with Eric and Connor here. We're going to see how this game turns out, and we're going to talk about it next week. So stay tuned for that. Hope you enjoyed this. Let us know what you're doing for the Super Bowl in a comment below the video. And I hope you guys have a great Super Bowl Sunday.
Bye.
Peace.